ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुवन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः. Okay. So let's do starting with verse number 29 of the 4th chapter, 5 verses. Starting with number 29. Apane juhvati pranam. Apane juhvati pranam. Apane juhvati pranam. Prane panam tatha pare. Pranapanagati ruddhva. Pranapanagati ruddhva. Pranayam aparayanaha. Pranayam aparayanaha. Apare niyataharaha. Apare niyataharaha. Pranan praneshu jihvati. Praneshu jihvati. Sarve pyete yajna vidaha. Sarve plyete yajna vidaha. Yajna kshapita kalmashaha. Yajna kshapita kalmashaha. Yajna shishtamrito bhujaha. Yajna Yajna shishtamrita bhujaha. Yajna shishtamrita bhujaha. Yanti brahma sanatanam. Nayam lokostya yajnayaha. Nayam lokostya Nayam lokotyajnayasya. Nayam lokostya yajnayasya. Kutonyah kuru sattama. Kutonyah kuru sattama. Evam bahuvidha yajna. Evam bahuvidha yajna. Vitata brahmano mukhe. Vitata brahmano mukhe. Karmajan vidhitan sarvan. Karmajan vidhitan sarvan. Evam gyatva vimokshase. Evam gyatva vimokshase. Shreyan dravyam ayadhyagyaha. Shreyan dravyam ayadhyagyaha. Jnana yajna parantapa. Sarvam karmakhilam partha. Sarva karmakhilam partha. Jnane parisamapyate. Jnane parisamapyate. I have to look up the pronunciation of the first line of verse number 33. So what we had been working on in the last few weeks is the block of verses in the 4th chapter, which started with verse number 18, which is the main verse of this block, because that's the one that created a platform for understanding. A platform for understanding for the difference between Atma and Anatma. Who am I and who am I not? That kind of a thing. And it's a very interesting verse because it says that the people who are able to see that what is obvious in life, which is things are moving, actually don't move, and they see things that are really moving and they think that it's not moving. And so this kind of an oppositeness of what is obvious has to be appreciated, and if you do that, then you are on the way to gaining freedom. And so I won't go through any details of that, but just what it says is that the Atma is not affected by all the things in my life. I am not affected. Atma means I. I should understand that I cannot be affected by the things that are happening to me. And this is not an obvious fact because it looks like I'm getting affected. I'm young, I'm old, I'm happy, I'm unhappy, etc., etc. The fact of the matter is, and that also that I was born, and because I was born, therefore I'm subject to death. All those kinds of things are what I just take it for granted. So the lesson of the Gita is that this is not the case. Please understand this. You're making a mistake. Not the case. And there's no reason, it's not a question of belief or anything. You have to understand this. That the Atma is not something that can be born or die. It cannot be affected. And the sense of the example given is the space. Even though no one wants to, forgot to turn it on. So no one wants to view themselves as a space, which is a non-entity. But really speaking, what we strive for is a sense of non-movement. I am just happy without having to do anything. It's kind of like a space-like situation. And so the space is just inert. I don't want to be inert, and I'm not. So this is what is called Chidakasha, not just simply Akasha. But nevertheless, I should not be afraid to understand that I am formless. And in fact, the formlessness is really what I am striving for. But I strive for formlessness through formfulness. I feel like I need to do something. And I need to be a famous person, recognized. I need to have lots of money, whatever, those kinds of things. But in fact, the end of that, as we were discussing in the deep sleep state in the previous class, the end of that is formlessness. And just like the Akasha, the space, is unaffected by things around it. It is unaffected by pollution. And in fact, even though it is perceived to have color, it doesn't have any color. It's very interesting to see that the color of infinity is blue. Beautiful. Ishvara has decided that whenever there is a sense of infinity, it's blue in color. I don't know how he decided that, but that's how it was done. So similarly, when you look at the ocean, blueness comes. And when you look at the akasha, blueness appears. So there is an appearance of blueness, but the akasha has no color whatsoever. And so, just like the akasha is not bothered by color, it is not bothered by being cut up. We make a room out of it. It looks like you're cutting space. And it appears sometimes that there is no space. And if you go to a bus in India, there comes a point where there's no space inside. People are hanging outside. There is no space. You can't even, all the seats are taken, all the standing room is taken, and that is just a start. The real stuffiness has not even started yet, but then people start pushing and so on and so forth. And finally, you cannot have any, so you can have a sort of like a thinking there is no space. A mountain, for example, takes away space. It doesn't take away space. So the Atma is the same way. I feel I am born. I am affected. I have some qualities. I am not happy. Or I am temporarily happy. None of them are true. That's because I don't understand the very nature of the Atma. And so in this verse number 18, the sense of motion was described. So the reality in terms of motion or motionlessness is described. So the Atma feels like it has a lot of changes. I'm happy in the morning, unhappy later on. I'm this, that, the other. A lot of effects are, in fact, without having any effect whatsoever. And once I understand it, it will become very clear to me. On the other hand, it looks like things are not moving, as we were discussing previously also, just quickly revising it, that just because you and I are sitting thus motionless, we're both meditating, all of us are moving at thousands, if not millions, of miles per hour. There's a lot of motion. Table looks like it's very not moving. There's movement inside the table. So that's what it says. Karmani akarma yav pashyet, akarmani cha karma yav pashyet, sah buddhiman manushyesu sa yukta kritsna karma krit. So this is the core verse which forms the core of this block of verses starting with 18. So just a revision of that. Then from 19 to 23 is given the implications of that in the way we lead our life. This is the truth. But what does it mean to me as I transact in my life? That's what Bhagavad Gita is all about. Bhagavad Gita is for householders, active people. It is not meant for sannyasis. Although sannyasis are also talked about, as we will do today also. But it is to imbibe this difficult notion, which appears to be difficult, that I am unaffected. How am I going to imbibe this as in my transactions of life? So the implications of this truth are described further in verse number 19 through 23. So here Swami Paramarthananda had pointed out that verse number 19 and 20 are meant for the Grihastha Jnani. So all of this is a result of understanding all of this to describe a person who basically understands the fact that the Atma can be free. You don't completely understand it, but you have an insight into it that the Atma is unmoving and Anatma is continuously moving. And how do I lead my life so that I can imbibe this lesson very clearly in my mind? So there is a vikalpa. There are two cases given. One is Grihastha Jnani. The Jnani here means at least some initial, not temporary, but some initial introduction to the fact that Atma doesn't move. So from a logical standpoint, we can get it. We can get it, just like in the Akasha and so on and so forth, we can get it. And lots of other things also that we have done in the past. Like, for example, one of the things, just to say, that really speaking, the transactions of life is a combination of similarity and differences. It's a combination of similarity and differences. You cannot have transactions without some differences, and you cannot have transactions without the sameness. Typical, starting with that, the example is that, for example, supposing you make ornaments out of the gold or any other metal, we just say gold. So the differences are the shapes of the various ornaments, and the sameness is the gold. And so, similarly is our situation in life. So, for example, just the statement, when I was young. Just examine this statement, when I was young. It has two elements to it already. One is differences and the other one is a non-difference. So here, I is the non-difference. And the fact that you are young and you are no longer young are the differences. So it's a combination of you cannot have a life without a single unchanging Atma. When you say I, if you are a completely different person at the various stages of your life, you cannot even make that statement. You cannot say when I was young. Similarly, when you get up in the morning, you are a brand new person. You don't recognize anyone. You are a brand new person altogether, has no memory, no nothing. So the whole transactions in life is because of this combination of changing and non-changingness. And so the non-changingness, we say, cannot be affected. So your consciousness, when you say, it's a very beautiful thing to see sometimes, and I also try to do that how did I feel when I was very young? And I can almost visualize, I can picture some of the situations. And I was aware of that at that time, and I'm still aware of that. So the consciousness itself doesn't change, but the factors, anatma, that you are focusing on keeps on changing. So similarly here also, the way of leading a life where you can recognize the unchanging and the changing and understand where each one of them has its influence and how does it work together and how does it separate each other. All of that is the implication of this knowledge of the 18th verse. So there are two main segments given. One is the Grihastha Jnani. So that's how I went on this tangent of that you and I, once we understand the basics of Atma and Anatma, can be called a Jnani. Jnani can be applied differently. But at least we have an introduction to it. So now the Grihastha Jnani and the Sannyasi Jnani are taken as separate entities. So this is what is called Karma Yoga and Sannyasa Yoga. So the verse number 19 and 20 as we studied last time, Yasya sarve samarambhaha kama sankalpa varjitaha jnana agni dagdha karmanam tam ahuhu panditam buddhaha. This is number 19. And tyaktva karma phalasangam nitya tripto nirashrayaha karmani abhipravittopi naiva kinchit karosi saha. So these two were given as the way of leading a life for a grihastha, for a householder, for an active person who wants to imbibe the truth of verse number 18, which I have some insight into, but I don't get it completely. This is the meaning of these verses. And today we go into verse number 21. And the verse number 21 is meant for the sannyasi jnani. Not for us, but for the sannyasi jnani. And it is really, the teaching is done for, the Bhagavad Gita can be studied by a sannyasi also. But the main purpose of the Bhagavad Gita is meant for the grihastha. But we should know how the sannyasi should feel, how she should lead the life. Because it's very possible that we may be a sannyasi one day in our life also. And it is said that whether or not you are physically a sannyasi, physically you may not be a sannyasi, but internally you should have detachment. And if you don't, then taking a sannyasa is not a very good thing. So for example, in the third chapter, the sixth verse of the third chapter, here Krishna had said, Karme indriyani samyamya yaha aste manasas smaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mithyacharasa uchyate. This is what was given in the sixth verse. So it says that a sannyasi, even though you might have taken the vows of sannyasa, as is done very often, you go to some teacher and say, you know what, this is the lifestyle I want. What you're telling me just makes a lot of sense to me, and then I just want to take diksha from you and become a sannyasi. It's not done very much in this country because the supporting mechanisms are not there, but in India this is done all the time. And now the teacher has to kind of evaluate you to see whether you're fit for sannyasa or not. And there's a very famous story, I think I've told you that before also, but just repeat it at this time. This is a real case where Ramana Maharshi was approached by a student who was a householder. And he had some children and he was trying to do some jobs and so on and so forth. So one day he came up to Ramana Maharshi and said, Swamiji, I want to take sannyasa. So he said, really? Why? He says, I don't know. I think what you're telling me about Atma and Anatma, that resonates very well in my mind. That's what I really want to do. And I'm tired of this, living a life of a householder and so on. That doesn't appeal to me anymore. And this is what appeals to me. And I want to take sannyasa. So as the biography of Ramana Maharshi, it is one of the biographies. Ramana Maharshi says, so tell me more about yourself, your life. He says, sir, it's very unpleasant. I've got kids and this, that. My wife and I don't disagree, and I don't have enough money, and I've got a lot of problems and so on. So Ramana Maharshi said, no, I cannot give you sannyasa. So he says, why not? What's the problem? He says, forgive me, but at this point I won't even explain why I'm not giving you sannyasa. You come back after some time, after a year or so, and then let's see again. Keep on attending classes. So he came back after 1 year and he says, I still want to take sannyasa. More worse than before. So Ramana Maharshi told him that this time the answer is still no, but at least I will explain why I am saying no. So he says, okay, I'm very disappointed that you're not giving me sannyasa, but okay, I'll explain. He says the reason is that if you are trying to take sannyasa to escape problems, it will not work. It will not work because I'm telling you from your standpoint, you will have a tough time as a sannyasi. So it will not work, and I don't want to be a party of doing that. So he says, explain to me what you mean by this. So Ramana Maharshi told him, listen, and this is what Gita is saying here on the 6th verse also, in Karma Indriyani Samyamya Aste Manasa Smaran Indriyarthan Vimudhatma Mithyachara Sauchyate. So here Krishna says what will happen is that, this Swami's clothes and how you look like a recluse and so on and so forth, this all appeals to you, doesn't it? He says, yes, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. This is exactly what I want and so on and so forth. He says this will become a big problem. Because what will happen is, you think that the sannyasi's life is easy? It is not. And the worst thing will be, you still have a taste of the outside life. Like cars. You will say, oh, these guys have got good cars. I don't have any cars. Family. For a while you feel like you're escaping the family, but pretty soon you would miss the company of the family. And so on and so forth. So internally your detachment is not there. Outwardly you're saying, I'm a sannyasi, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Not going to work. And same thing I can tell you that the ashram life is very difficult. Very difficult. Because I can see it. We have talked to some of the staff people and so on. I mean, I'm other than the 2.5 years I spent with Swamiji, I have not lived in an ashram, but I can tell there are staff members have complaints about others. And the worst thing is that if you have complaints about others, you cannot verbalize it also. Because in our life we can have a fight. Supposing you've had somebody and say, you shouldn't have told me this is the wrong thing for you to do, and so on and so forth. Get it out of the system. In an ashram, you may have some feelings about some other staff members, but you're not supposed to say anything. You say, well, how are you? This is what Swamiji used to tell us. Swamiji will come to, somebody will come and say, Swamiji, this staff member really bothers me because he's not doing their own job. Swamiji says, okay, I'll talk to them. Because you cannot talk to them. You are a sannyasi. Very difficult. So Swami Paramarthananda said the difference between a grihastha and a sannyasi is this. Look at a grihastha. A grihastha has the advantage, or look at the disadvantage. The disadvantage is that you have the responsibility of taking care of everything. You are responsible for your family, making enough money, getting your car fixed. All those kinds of things are yours. This is the disadvantage. Advantage is you have security. You know that your mortgage is paid and electricity bill is paid. You are going to stay in this home. There's some sense of security. Artha, kama, artha and kama. You look at a sannyasi. The advantage is you don't have any responsibility. You don't have to pay electricity bills. You don't have to do anything. The disadvantage is what? No security. And no security means that unless you are ready to take the refuge of Ishvara, let Ishvara take care of it. In the 9th chapter, 22, verse number 22, Ishvara himself says it. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janaha paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshema vahamyaham. So it says that if you are willing to abdicate everything to me, if you become, that I become, Ishvara says that if you're ready to put your trust in me completely in a very sincere manner, saying that you are my only Rakshaka, no one else is my Rakshaka, no one is really, Rakshaka means one who takes care of me. No one else really takes care of me. You are the alone, one who recognizes it. Then he says, Yoga Kshema Vahami Aham, means your upkeep and your transactions, I'll take care of it. So if there is a sannyasi who is truly detached from the outside, and it doesn't worry whether my son calls me or not, whether my family cares for me or not, whether I have a good car or not. If it really is like that, then sannyasa can become very beautiful. But sannyasa is not easy. Because, why? Because your ability to truly give up the attachment to the other things has not yet happened. You have a resolution that I would like to be like that, but resolutions don't really help. So therefore, it says that you should work while you are a householder and understand the disadvantages of attachment. Like, for instance, children, for the older people. So for children, I mean, there are lots of other advantages, but a lot of other examples, but take a look at this one. This is an important example. For those of us that have had children, we have to learn to let go naturally. At a certain point in time, like for example, your children first go to college, they stay away from home. It is important that you keep in touch with them. How are you doing? How are your meals? Do you have any special problems? Can I help you? Money. All of that is important. But there comes a point where the children now have taken care of their career. They've taken some student loans and so on, whatever they've done to continue their studies. And they have made friends and so on and so forth. Now it is a transition from love to attachment. Here Swami Dayananda used to say that. He says, be careful about the difference between love and attachment. There's a very fine line between them. And it's a fine line, but pretty obvious if you follow the right rules. And the fine line is, please think about it. Just close your eyes and think about it. Does that person need something from me? Then providing it naturally is love. But ask yourself, if you need that person, instead of that person, your children needing you, if you need that person, it is attachment. Because, and by the way, this has nothing to do with physical attachment. Nothing to do with, so there are real cases where you're not well and you want your children to take care of you. We're not talking about that. But it is more psychological attachment, that you feel incomplete without your family saying good things to you. My kids should be calling me very often. They haven't called for a week. What's happened? Who do you think they are? I have taken so much good care of them for all the life, and now he doesn't even call me? Attachment. You are really, that person doesn't realize that he hasn't called you. He's very busy. I was telling you about a real case when usually in the old days, calling in India was very expensive. Very expensive. And nowadays it's FaceTime and, it's a completely different situation. So there, we used to write letters to my parents. We used to say, how are you? And then by the time the letter reaches, 1 week has gone by. Then they take a few days to reply. By the time it comes back, practically 3 or 4 weeks have gone by. Only one transaction. One transaction. And it was so funny. My father, bless his soul, he's such, he was very particular about the spellings of my text. And I still remember I was over 40. And I had come back from the ashram. I was already over 40 by that time. And he wrote me a scathing letter. And my mother would say, we love you and all that, so on and so forth. My father was just like me. He's very functional and, to the point. How are you doing? Anything else? This, that, or the other. And then done with it. Then he wrote me a scathing letter and saying, I've been telling you that you have some spelling problems. And particularly, I don't understand, I think I've told you before, separate is not separate. It is separate. So I don't want to see this again. Next time you do this. My wife was laughing at me and she said, so, and then, so what happened, I forgot to tell you that. So we used to write letters and, once in a while spend like $4 or $5 on AT&T to call. It was very expensive. One time I had a business trip to Europe, and my wife and I were both there. And we were gone for like 2.5 weeks, something like that. It was long extended period, some business and some pleasure. And during that time, I didn't have time to write. Because you have to go to the local post office and have their own. So I said, it's okay, I'll do it. Calling was out of the question because you didn't know how to do this. Oh my God. When I got back, one day there was a phone call and my mother was so mad at me. Have you forgotten us? We also exist, this, that, or the other. And I said, oh, Mom, I'm very sorry. This is what happened. Anyway, she calmed down. And I learned a lesson from that. I said, when I grow up, I am not going to do this. I'm not going to let my, And even now, my wife sometimes will say, wow, this fellow has not called us for a while. I says, good. Good, excellent. He's happy? No, she says, no, but sometimes maybe some bad things have happened. I said, no, nothing has happened. They are happy. I feel they're okay. I'm also okay. I don't need them to call me and so on and so forth. It's perfectly fine. So it's a lesson learned in your life. So basically, we have to go from a experience and transactions of having a normal life of dependencies and love and so on and so forth, to a point where you begin to see dependencies and love as a problem because you're psychologically attached to it. And if you're able to pretty much get over that and then take sannyasa, your sannyasa will be very successful. Otherwise, it will not be successful. I think I was telling you this, just another example comes to my mind. So there was a Swami who was, I forget even his name. I sincerely forgot his name, and I'm not just saying it. He was a disciple of Swami Dayanandji. And in the early days when I was establishing some teaching and my own classes and so on and so forth, then the word got around that this area is a good place to come and visit. So a lot of the Swamis would come on their own. They will call me and says, I'm coming for some visits. Can you please help me? So I would do that to the best of my ability. So this Swami came. And so one of my students who used to live in Fremont, I asked him, and I think Swamiji may have actually asked him also separately from me, that can you please take care of this Swami? And so he did. So one day, this student came to me after the Swamiji's visit was over, and he really broke down and cried. He said, Vijayji, I've done something really bad. I said, what happened? He says that what happened was that this Swami was a stickler for punctuality. He wanted to make sure, that every time he goes to a class, it's right on time. And this student fellow was kind of loosey-goosey. 5 or 10 minutes one way or the other doesn't make much difference. So he used to tell him, let's go, we are already late and so on. So somebody like Swami Tattva Vedananda, that's how he was. So one day, this fellow was a few minutes late. And then on the way, he said, oops, I'm going to be out of gas. My car is going to be out of gas. I have to stop in to get some gas. This Swami got so mad. It's a real situation in Fremont. He was like about 4 or 5 blocks away. He says, I'm getting out and I'm walking. And you have really disappointed me. I'm telling you that I've been telling you to be punctual. You have not followed this. I am really not a happy person. I'm just going to walk. So he says that, Swamiji, but you don't know exactly. He says, I'll find out. Don't worry about it. I know the address and I'll just walk. He got out. And this student was so bad. So poor, no, not mad, but so sorry about the whole thing, that I created this, and so on. Here is a case where the internal detachment had not taken place. So what if he's late? The poor guy, he forgot to gas his tank, that's it. So fine, let people wait for 10 minutes. So what's the big thing? No. You have your own ideas on what it should be. That means internally you are just not fit to be here. And I have seen so many cases like this, where these swamis get angry because their normal way of not looking at it is not there. For you and I, we can get angry and it will be very normal, very normal. But for a Swami to have anger, it looks like very out of place, very out of place. So this is what he's saying, that please Arjuna, don't have these fancy feelings of, becoming a sannyasi and so on and so forth. And the interesting thing is, which I've never experienced, but I'm sure that next meal is a major problem for the sannyasi. Where are they going to? You and I, we can just quickly go and have a sandwich and that's be done with. Sannyasi is not supposed to make their own meal. They are maybe a cup of coffee, that's it. But anything solid, you have to depend on others to do it. And it's not easy to live like that. It must be only if you just depend on God and say, next meal will come from somewhere. Doesn't matter. If you're not ready yet, it's not possible to do. Anyway, so this verse number 21, just look at this, verse number 20. Now we can see the verse number 21 and describes the sannyasi jnani. Nirashir yata chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvan apnoti kilmisham. Let's look at all of this. Tyakta sarva parigraha means having renounced all the possessions, as Swami Paramarthananda correctly translates. Yata chittatma, having a natural restraint of the mind and the body. Nirashihi, the life is not dictated by I wish this would happen, I wish that would happen. Free from those desires. Kurvan karma. Kurvan, here he adds the word minimum. Very good. Engaging in whatever is required, the very minimum activity. Shariram kevalam requires, which karma that requires the maintenance of the body. Because the body was given to you by Ishvara. Even some of the things like hunger and thirst, yes, you have a right to fulfill it. You have a right to fulfill it. But you don't really, you don't get perturbed about that. And as we were saying that if you're abdicated your responsibility to Ishvara, then he'll somehow make it happen. You may get hungry once in a while, but overall you'll have no problems whatsoever. Kevalam shariram naha apnoti kilbisham means that you don't incur any kind of a bad thoughts from it and so on. So shariram kevalam karma means fulfilling your prarabdha. So fulfilling your prarabdha means that there are, as you know, there is a very basic distinction between prarabdha karma and kamya karma. So we should really absorb this very well. If there's nothing else that you learn from these talks, from these classes, if you can just get a very clear idea that your life, our lives consists of prarabdha karma and kamya karma. And it is not very difficult, just like I said earlier, that it is not that difficult to make a distinction between love and attachment. Not that difficult. Because the filters have to be very clear. So in that case, the filters were, is it do I need it for my upkeep? That is attachment. For my psychological upkeep. And is it something that the other person needs my help on? That is love. Very simple. Similarly, here also the distinction between prarabdha karma and kamya karma needs to be very clearly understood. And here what it is, nirashihi kurvan karma shariram kevalam, talks about prarabdha karma. Again, the distinction is not that difficult to understand. The distinction is this. You look at yourself at any one time in your life, and if your life is unfolding in a particular manner, either pleasant or unpleasant, because of things that have happened in the past, your situation that you are in, this is called prarabdha karma. And you have to take care of it, in a given situation, and whatever it is that you have to take care of it. That means taking care of your body, being healthy, having some, reasonable amount of friends, have the right attitude towards teaching, all of those kinds of things. I'm just, this is called prarabdha karma. Distinct from that are kamya karma, where the seed of the kamya karma is some new proposals that have nothing to do with the prarabdha karma. Wouldn't it be nice if I went on a cruise? Kamya karma. There was no before, just because this is what happens. I went to Berkeley and I get these brochures from them that we are composing a alumni tour of Europe, all meant for UC Berkeley graduates. I've been getting this for like 15 years. They should know that I'm not interested and stop wasting money on it. But every 2 or 3 weeks or so I get this one. And supposing I say, that sounds really good. That sounds good. You go to Croatia and all these strange places, and then, and then it's all done for about $2,500 plus airfare or something like this. This is called kamya karma. It had nothing to do with leading a happy life. You're okay the way you are. But now, this is what happens. I find people who are saying, there's a good friend of mine who's quite, she's well-to-do, very well-to-do. I observe her life. It's a very interesting thing. She and her husband, more she than the husband. She just wants to cover the whole world in visiting all places. And so we will ask her, so how's your plan? She says, well, I want to cross off that place out of my list. And you imagine what it takes. And you know what the other interesting thing is? She's a strict vegetarian, like I am. She's even stricter than I am. At least I can take garlic. She doesn't even. So every place she goes to, and we've had some meals where the normal things like pizza, etc., I can eat. But she cannot eat because she smells garlic. So she has to send it back. And some special one has to be made for her, which is free of onions and garlic. In spite of that fact, she travels all over the world. In places where even vegetarian, I don't know how she does it. What a life. She's just gotten into the feeling that I am not complete until I've seen all the places of the world. And it's just amazing. So this is what is called kamya karma. And this is a big example, but you can even have a simple example of just coming up with some ideas. And it'd be nice if we go to a new restaurant. Let's go to this kind of a Vietnamese restaurant. Hey, just eat the normal stuff and be happy with it. No, that's not. I mean to have something new. Kamya karma. So this is what is given in these things. So this would be called yata chittatma. Yata chittatma. So yata chittatma means that have some constraints on your kamya karma. Just because some proposal has been made, some friend says, wouldn't it be nice, let's do this. And my rule is very simple. If the whole family wants to go someplace, I don't want to be the person who says, I don't want to go. Because they feel that we haven't been together for a while, let's just go to such and such place and so on. And that doesn't happen all that much. Now our family is getting so big, nobody seems to agree on where to go. So they all go in separate places. So I'm free now. I don't have to go with any one of them. But if the whole family says, come on, Dad, then I say, this is not kamya karma. This is, I didn't propose it, but I'll go along with it. That's okay. I don't want to spoil the party. As it is, I spoil their party because if any proposal is made for something, they cannot make it on Saturday morning. Because they know this guy has to teach classes and so on and so forth. Now they're all conditioned. Just today itself, my wife's niece's birthday is in San Francisco. Everybody wanted to go for lunch. And then they said, no, this Vijay uncle, he's got classes. So we'll be going there at 4 o'clock this afternoon for the dinner. So as it is, I changed their life a little bit. But that's okay. I try to have a nice balance between. But for me to just propose, this means that my life depends on outside factors. And slowly, the lesson of the Gita is, please start to work on your detachment, internal detachment. And right now you feel that you need to be only happy when you are doing all these things. Discover that you are happy even without it. It's a discovery. Because right now our feeling is, no, I am not a very happy person, but I need to do all these things. This is not true. And so the self-discovery has to be discovered, it has to be done. And when you are pretty much done, then sannyasa becomes beautiful. So that's what he says, nirashihi yata chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvan apnoti kilbisham. So this is a target lifestyle for a sannyasi that we should all strive towards in a natural way. Then in verse number 22, which we can, I think, still do, we have enough time to do. Here Swami Paramatmananda made a very beautiful comment. He says, this particular verse can be taken either for a grihastha jnani or a sannyasa jnani. But he says, I think it is really meant for a grihastha jnani. So let's look at that. And the two are similar. One talks about a lifestyle which it is already well developed. Sannyasa means a well developed lifestyle of detachment. And the grihastha in the later stages of life, on a life lived intelligently, is not well developed. By the way, I can just interrupt it for one. This class on the first chapter of the Panchadashi that I'll be teaching. So we were just developing the ad for that, which will run in the India West for a couple of weeks. And so that will be the theme. The theme of that will be how to slowly move towards a self-reliant life and a non-dependent life. So that's the sense of the first one, and the ad will, and in fact I would encourage you to, what we should do is to perhaps make some, Kumud and I have been working on, and also with Archana, the single page flyer. So you know, using that, I think you've given me the address, I can even just go with that.
I can do it.
And so then I think we should give it to people and so on and so forth. It'll be a good opportunity for us to start a new class where new people can be introduced to it and so on. That'll be nice. So the boundary between Grihastha ashrama and Sannyasa ashrama is not stark. If it is stark, then the Sannyasa ashrama will not be successful. Because it is just done, I can see people who says this is is interesting. In the Indian ashrams, if you go to the ashrams in India, not in Sailor'sburg, but if you go to Rishikesh, in Rishikesh, everybody sits on the ground and eats, except the swamis. So the swamis are given a table and a chair, and meal is served to them. So they have to, the rest of us, we have to get our own meal and sit on the floor cross-legged and eat the meal. Okay? So sometimes people have sort of commented and said, Vijayji, please, take a table. You are just a grihastha. I know you're not a swami, but we consider you as. I want to keep it clean. This is meant for swamis, and I'm a grihastha. What I understand or not understand, it's up to me. That's my own internal thing. But on outwardly, I would not be surprised if some people, and I've seen some Westerners in that role, they feel this is a good life. You sit on a table and chair, you are served, and a lot of respect is given to you. This is what I want to do. They may not be ready for it. They may still think about, oh, that was a nice car, who does that belong to? Problems. So the stark boundary between these two doesn't have to be there. It's a gradual process of detachment. And so verse number 22 can be given to either one of them, but Swami Paramarthananda said that let's take it as instructions to a grihastha. So let's look at that. Yadrichaya labha santushtaha dvanda atitaha vimatsaraha samaha siddhau asiddhau cha kritvapi na nibadhyate. Beautiful verse. So, yadrichya labha santushtaha, fully content with whatever is obtained by chance. Okay? So here, Swamiji in his commentary had said that there are two extremes in the conduct of one's life. One will be, and you see these in our lives, if you examine people's behavior and so on and so forth. So just to exaggerate, the two extremes are a person who feels that I am responsible for my life. And I have made my life what it is. No one else has anything to do with it. And I am the one who has done well, and I'm responsible for it. So this is what is called mani. Manam yasya iti mani. Means one who has a complete And typically you find these self-made millionaires, they have this feeling that, I did it. I took and to a certain extent it is correct also. I did but they exaggerate to say me. The other end of that is just the opposite, where there is complete fatalism. It's all Ishvara's doing. What am I supposed to do? I don't have to do anything. It's just all I can do is to go to the temple and pray. And whatever happens. So, we've got something, somebody makes a proposal that I think we should get together and, like for example, you say, let's get together and do some aim for seva work. Lord, those people are taken care of by Ishvara. What is my help going to do? Nothing that I can do. It's completely okay. It's complete fatalism. In fact, the truth is somewhere in between. Means that yes, we require you to take some initiative, but you should also recognize the help that you are getting from others. One very simple example of that is how your body is being maintained without your knowledge. If somebody says, I did it, everything. Hey, do you make your blood flow? Do you make your heart beat? Do you make your lungs take in oxygen? Are you responsible for that? Oh yeah, I have to take care of it and so on and so forth. But take care of it is one thing. But who is taking care of you while you're asleep, when you're awake? Don't you see it's a combination? Yes, you have to do some maintenance of the body and so on. Eat well and so on. Yes. So your attitude should be yadrichaya labha. So Swami Paramarthananda was very, very clear about this. He says Krishna is not saying that don't do things. What it is saying is, do not worry about doing things. Do not be under the anxiety. Live in the present and plan for the future, as we've been saying for the last few classes. Planning is excellent, but worrying about the future, and so a certain amount of worry is necessary for planning, no doubt about it. But if you simply examine your life, you find inordinate amount of anxiety is consuming your life. What will happen? And I think I need to do more. You try to earn more money than is necessary. That's the word parigraha. In the previous verse, in the Yoga Sutras, this word parigraha is used. Tyakta sarva parigraha. Parigraha means saving for the future. Saving for the future. Here Swami Dayanandji, I remember that when he first came to this country, and he has been here a couple of times. So he started to see some interesting cultural differences between the Westerners and Indians. And he said, there's something I like about the Westerners' thinking, which has to do with parigraha. He says the Westerners, I find, are not interested in saving for the future, especially for their children, and not only their children, their children's children, 2 or 3 generations. And they say, no, I don't have enough money, I gotta save for the future. Westerners, on the other hand, as soon as they have some savings, they just enjoy it. And let the kids take care of themselves on their, this is a very interesting thing. So he says we should learn from them also. We overdo it. Both need to change. The Westerners also need to have a little bit more sense of saving for themselves, forget about the children. But the Indians need to move away from over-saving into just employing it for their daily use. So yadricha labha santushtaha doesn't mean that you look like a fool, whatever happens, happens. You plan for the future, but don't spend a lot of time worrying about it. Just take it for what it is. And so I think the clarion call of this whole thing is accept the present and work for the future. This is the clarion call of this verse. I think I'm just going to, there's some more things that I wanted to talk about in this verse, and I would run out of time, so I'm just going to stop in the middle of the verse number 22, and then we will continue this in the next class, because there's some things to be talked about in the dvandva atitaha vimatsaraha and samasiddhau asiddhau cha. So this won't take much more, but I do need about 10-15 minutes for that, so that we'll have to carve out of next class. So with that, I'll close today. Om asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityor ma amritam gamaya. Om purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Yeah, the Gita is highly regarded because it examines the various aspects of our life and the possibilities, and in a very, very beautiful manner. And it is really meant for grihasthas. So Arjuna, being the target, who is a grihastha, not for a sannyasi. But the sannyasi's life is the target for us. And whether or not you actually become a sannyasi or not is less important, but the qualities of a sannyasi have to be inculcated in the daily life. That's why I think it's a very beautiful book. Yeah.
So are people still taking sannyas in India?
Oh yes, of course. Oh, absolutely.
I sense a shift in the culture. In the old times, people felt obligated to support Swamis. That shift has taken place now. The new generation.
No, that what you say is also true. That the new generation is. They are not trained to support the Swamis to the same degree, but it's a minor shift. It will go back to, the very basic culture is still there, and also it's very possible that the individual support of the sannyasis by a householder may not be the same. But then other institutions come about where food is given to them and so on. But no, it's very much present. Absolutely, nothing has changed on that. My guess would be, this is just a wild guess, I would say probably 50 to 100 sannyasis are taken, become a sannyasi every week. Yeah, that number. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I have a question about your prarabdha karma and kame karma.
Yes.
If you take vasana as kame karma, vasana be defined under like material unfulfillment.
Correct.
But how about how we define still a desire, a ichha?
Yes.
For spiritual fulfillment, we still have.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question. So, so what you find is that desires also, specific desires are also a result of samskaras, of vasanas in the past, no doubt about it. But the breaking of new starting of new seeds will come about if you begin to have a sensitivity towards the nature of the desires. So what it means is that you're unable to stop things overnight. That's not what is meant for. It's not as though it's a... But then the sensitivity towards what's happening to me, what kind of desires do I have, and how am I ready to fulfill it, that recognition itself starts to change things. Even the awareness of that. Before that, you weren't thinking about that at all. But until, so the next stage would be just awareness of desires. And particularly, those desires that don't seem to give you lasting happiness, is something and so that becomes a prayer to Ishvara, which says that please, those vasanas and samskaras that are just are uselessly coming to me, can you please hold them back? So this is why a combination of Ishvara, this is why we cannot just like Ishvara is supporting our blood flow, as I was mentioning, and so on. One of the prayers could be that please make sure that my vasanas and samskaras that give rise to the desires are done in a manner that those are most essential for me. Please take away non-essential. Until then, you have to still fulfill desires. But slowly you will find that with the help of Ishvara, only those desires will be left in you that are prarabdha karma, not kama karma. So it's a gradual process. Yeah.
So talking about detachment, not getting attached to anything, basically, wouldn't that lead to like people being alone or depressed or something? I mean,
absolutely. If you're not ready for it, don't do it. That's exactly what is being talked about as mithyachara uchyate. So having a detachment, this is not forced detachment at all. It will lead to a lot of depression and loneliness and so on. Don't do it. So continue with it at all. But then there is a gradual discovery, as I was saying earlier, of substituting dependencies with discovering the independence of the Atma. It's a gradual process. It's not going to happen overnight. And until then, don't force it to a point where you make things worse for yourself. Yeah.
so basically, if you're okay with not being attached to anything and you're fine.
Yes, don't disturb it. Don't disturb it. Exactly. Don't think that I need to be attached. That's kama karma. You see, that's exactly right. But on the other hand, if a sense of attachment is strong in you, then you cannot just get by thinking away that getting rid of it. That's not going to happen.
Well, this is kind of weird. I'm sorry I'm taking a bit time, but so personally, I am not attached to a lot of things or a lot of people. I don't even like too many people. So is that normal? Because I usually travel on my own and I talk to people, but I don't, not too close.
Mm-hmm.
So is that like?
Well, I think that it's hard to comment, but what I would say is that if you are afraid of making friends and afraid of talking to, not afraid in that sense, but if you dislike talking to friends or not having friends and so on and so forth, and that's also an issue that you have to deal with because the whole jagat is where people are in a society and so on and so forth. Like for example, one of the things that I find is very interesting that if you go to a Indian restaurant, just as a side example to this, you have a sense that the people who are waiting on you are inferior to you. They are kind of like workers and so on, and I'm here for a meal. You don't chit-chat with them very much. And they also don't chit-chat with you. They'll come and give you the menu and then walk away. If you go to a Western restaurant, it's very interesting. The first thing if you go to, and they're making more money than you are sometimes, from some of the tips that they get is just incredible. So they don't have this feeling that I'm inferior or anything like this. So they'll come in and say, "Hi, how was your day?" And then if you're not saying anything, you should say, "Nice weather today." That breaks down the whole thing completely. My wife is such an expert at that. She gets such good service from people. Even if we are in a hurry, she'll say, no, we are in a big hurry. She will start by saying, "Hi, how was your day today?" A very nice weather, and she becomes friendly with them right away. So to have a sense of, I don't want to talk to anybody, I don't want it, so on and so forth, can be a problem. And I think that one should get away from having this wall being built in. Just start a conversation. I find that the Westerners here are much more that way. They'll just do something and it just breaks the ice and it's very friendly and so on and so forth. We Indians tend to be a little bit, leave me alone, I'm on my own kind of a thing. So yeah, that's not a sign of, I wouldn't say. If on the other hand, you are fully immersed in just with yourself and you're happy and so on and so forth, and you don't want anybody to disturb it, that's healthy, that's okay. But if it means that you're very cognizant of it, I am not talking to anyone and this is the way I want to be, and I wonder if some friends I'll make some, then it can be a problem. Yeah.
Sir, I also look at many Indians don't like to smile at all. I have a big problem with them. I really have a big problem with them because we're passing by and they know.
You know what you should do? I tell you what. You have a badge here which should say smile. Both sides.
Indian smile.
Yeah, it's terrible, because you go anywhere, other culture, they're very accepting and smiling,
Yeah, it's true.
But us, even though you're passing by, you could be from the same nation, I mean, you keep passing by an animal, I don't know, I really look at that way because how the
Sure, I think you're right.
reaction,
You have to force a smile on them,
What's that?
No.
You have to force a smile.
Yeah, true. All right, I think we're out of time, so we'll see you next week. Thank you.